ちょっと説明するわ。お台場オキュピーってね、ちょっとお台場オキュピーの説明してないんかって。俺ね、もさ、ようやく校長か。俺なんて対策。俺ね、
by the way, is when you talk about European military intervention, that's why I like the qualification European Army, not much, is that there will always be national parliaments who will decide if those soldiers will be sent into harm's way. So they will not, I hope, talk about a European command and a European parliament which decides this goes to the heart of the sovereignty of nations. And those nations will want to decide themselves. I see the way out. As presented by President Macron of France, the European Intervention Initiative, where you can build coalitions of the willing outside the EU institutions. You can build coalitions of the willing, which you will always need for such kind of military operations. The advantage of a coalition of the willing is that after Brexit, you can keep Great Britain on board. Because they will not anymore be a member of the European Union. At the same time, PESCO, the Permanent Structured Cooperation System, of course, continue an important project, but rather bureaucratic and rather cumbersome. So that would be my answer to the question, does Europe need its own army?
なんかサクリマン逮捕された。俺感じないですよね。特権許さないかい。もうなんだい。あれ逮捕されたん日テレがそう報道したんやさ。よいしょね。もう最初から。やっちまってんやさ。俺や暴対法適用したんやさ。皆さんやさ。
There has never been as much change as there is today. On the technology side, with connectivity, electrification, autonomous driving, on the social domain, with sharing, more urbanization, and new ways of working, and also on the regulation side, where it's about emission control and standards, and also on regulation for managing congestions in the city. So we actually covered that. We also talked about what does it actually mean for the cities. How will actually the traffic evolve if you have more AVs and individual mobilities through AVs? What would be levers to actually work on getting a mitigation of traffic? Basically, how to deal with traffic from autonomous vehicles. What would be the impact of actually sharing more cars, or basically having smaller or basically bus-based autonomous vehicles? And actually, how would you deal with density-based pricing? How would you actually work as a city to make the whole mix work and in the end get to better transportation for the whole city?
まあダイヤルこのそんなにもう
Strategic mission for Europe has to care on the globalized world.
まあ
That means to stabilize our neighborship,
連邦だった
to stabilize Africa together with others. But Africa is one of the major
珍しく会見しました本来ななほ
And of course,
否定的なのさマスコミ見てよ
make our
会見しました
values
あれの行
as
動間違って
attractive
なか
as
った
possible in the
白
global
状したさ第二の憲政塾
which
と
order is
日本公民党のまだ宮廷成功と原始まだ時代の流れって言って時代おじこさんも言ったよさプロフェッショナルになんか暗いさやっぱりなね架空でな広島のなそれでなあっち実際見に行ったけどああいうふうにつまんあっちで話せ皆さん体制的じゃない言ったよな
Why doesn't everybody copy it? Why doesn't everybody copy the way that the South Koreans teach their kids mathematics? Why doesn't everybody copy the way the Swiss decentralize their politics? And I think part of the answer is that we don't really spend nearly enough time looking at what is best practice. I live in the United States, though I grew up in the United Kingdom. One hardly ever hears a reference to other countries' systems in the US debate on healthcare, except when somebody is making a completely caricature caricatured analysis of the way, say, Canada does things. So I think part of what we need to do is stress the need to look at best practice so that politicians and voters become more aware that there are solutions to most of the public policy problems. We just haven't tried them in many countries. On the other hand, I think there's one other side to this that we shouldn't forget. Sometimes you'll meet people who tell you, well, the Scandinavians have worked everything out, and Sweden, Finland, or Denmark have come up with the perfect solution to all problems. That's often an argument people make on the left in the United States. But I don't think the solutions that the Swedes came up with in recent decades necessarily would work in a country as large and as diverse as the United States. So let's look at best practice, let's understand which systems deliver the best results, but let's not pretend that one size is going to fit all. Part of the reason for the success of Western civilization, which is where democracy began, was the diversity of systems and the competition between them.
戦いもうみんな一緒にもう冷戦終わったからもう冷戦だからもう時代にはねそういうこういうさ核でも硬いしなぜあれやったかねさあごめんまだこんだまだ旧帝政府こともねえじゃんいるねケッチャーの関係こんなのいる言いよっちゃうこっそり日本防衛軍勉強してプライムニュースそこ朝晩に何時研究してそう言ってそこ第一委員会とか言って勘違いするなよでねはい連邦基本法典のケッチャーの自由とかあるから安易にできんねんだからね最近はね日本の極規制法制定をちょっと国に答申中一体もう
Well, does diplomacy exists? It's not an easy question. The answer is yes and no.
与党たるさ、日本
yes,
共和主義じゃねえね。
in an institutional sense, that is,
ねじれ状態
Miss
だ。
Mogherini today
そして
exists.
勘違いじゃない別に。
Travel, she can
関
deliver
数に
some
もあっ
messages
てた
from
よ。これ
Europe,
日本
but
共
I would say certainly not on the most
工場どういったかこそ。
fundamental issues of foreign policy, because
やっぱり民主系があると。
the European Union are
また再犯したね。
very old nation states that they have their own foreign policy,
だね
defense,
な、広いとこ
security
これは
apparatus, and so forth and
ね
so on.
びっくりや SP 引き連れてそうもうあの時点で日本内戦場とそれと同時にやっぱり安保闘争やっぱりな
Second to the
用意周到すぎた本当に
UK, as long as
お名前をしようねなんでや
or the German
俺は断る
diplomacy that could continue.
俺も反対したいな
So,
俺ら
in
もそん
my
なことするな俺も
judgment,
ね
the best merit
みんな見てこれ上系
of
俺もね
EU
独
diplomacy
島国際軍事裁判所東京裁判
refers
ど
to
うしてない
perhaps
どうしてない証言したい登場できない
the differences between the various diplomacies of the member
だね
states.
この名称さんね
This, as such, is
やっぱ
not
り
so
日本
bad. And also, I think the
日
EU
本
diplomacy
共和
can
党とね
deal with some
Oh,
relatively
no.
secondary
やっ
issues,
てん
such
ね
as
浜田光一さんがやりましたさ
thinking of the Timor case in
浜田光一さん意外と千葉で
that is issues which are not at the forefront of national diplomacies, but which nevertheless can have some importance.
桜順子
So, to conclude, I would say that
まあ今千葉市千葉首都
European
特化
diplomacy will exist only the day
あ行った
when
んです
the Europeans
びっくりじゃん
have a clear understanding of what they
お
want
い平
to
田さん
achieve,
狙われてる
what is
本当に保守派かなんで狙われるのなんで狙われるなんで狙われるの
diplomacy
やっぱり安保と
defense
全学連のメンツかやっぱりなほらいけ外野さお名前を言ってました俺の項目日俺は元社会主義者
I think we
厳
have
密に
not
言う
yet
とトルツキスト
reached the stage when
トルツキストってわかる世界革命的な社会主義論者や
what is it exactly
社会主義者ってあったやろ俺トルツキストね俺トルツキストや 統一決定お前ね太陽問題調査で研究こっそりでスパイだってなんでだからそんな同僚に告発した IPR だ受賞3曲にトイレ国連会変なのかなきた当時から喋ろうと思ってねもう JIE 日本国言おうとしたやんビルダーバーググループもう喋ろうと思ったやんああさん言おうと思ってねえねえ死んだみたいやな
I think China's rise will change the international configuration from the unipolar to bipolar, and also possibly make the world order different from before. But it doesn't mean that China's rise is the only factor to change the current international order. And actually, the Trump administration's policy is more challenging than China's rise to the current international order. Because China's policy tries to maintain the order. The reason is very obvious. China benefits from the present order. And meanwhile, the Trump administration believes that China benefits more from the current order than the United States. That's why they want to change the order.
自民党との連立交渉もう自民党瓦解崩壊する交渉してようやく小沢一郎制なんだ実現してさ誰マッカーサー特使思って上川君が対決してねさ JIE のフェスだもう面会オーストリアに元気西ワールドおいチャタムとそう言っていやAJAP とかそんなもんやべえ残念こっそりそうやべえドイツ版のビルダーバーグみたいな固めだって結成時は同じよそうびっくりしたそうしたよそうまあ要はあれなんだあれですねそれは何なぜツイートしないの分かった本当にユナイテッドアンかおまけでしたどうやったらおまけやったやんびっくりしたほんまイングランドおまけでびっくりしたさびっくりしたさ何急にしないやっぱりな痕跡やったらやっぱり拉致やったFor example, over dominance of the Pacific, will China perhaps be constrained by other things? Maybe there'll be internal disruption to China's politics. If it cannot manage to, for example, maintain the current political stability, that could disrupt China's political rise. And finally, there's the question of the rest of the world, because between them, China and the US are not the whole of the world economy. Other major powers have a say in this. And at the moment, it looks like most of the other major powers of the world, Japan, the European Union, are closer to the United States than to China. So there's a question whether China, even as the world's largest economy, can become a dominant political power without allies. それはこいつだこいつだジュリエットお前最初から
I think economic growth, the success or failure of it will be determined by the degree to which individual countries and regions can supply jobs for the great emerging middle classes of these countries, formerly poor countries. I think what we're likely to see in the 21st century is many people who are either liberated from hard labor or for whom there is too little hard labor to provide jobs. And what will these people do? How will they be employed? And I think that will be a major factor contributing forward. Also, even though the world population is declining, still in an era of massive countries in about 20 or 30 countries. And there's going to be a lot of
凶
pressure
暴マイケル
to provide jobs, whether it's in China, in Yemen, it's in Ethiopia, or wherever.
The
main question of my talk is if robotics and artificial intelligence and the upcoming industrial revolution are a threat or an opportunity for the world and for manufacturing countries and also for developing countries. And the answer is still unknown. But what is sure now is that we have to invest in the main assets that are characterizing the industrial revolution, digital transformation, competences, infrastructures, data centers, and all the tools that are fundamental and are considered enabling technologies for the future digital transformation. I also presented the differences between the US, Europe, and China, how they are integrating artificial intelligence into different knowledge and competences and scientific results. For example, in the US, they are investing very much in developing artificial intelligence for humanities, while in China, they are investing in developing artificial intelligence for agricultural applications, for producing food, for example. So globalization has obtained some results in terms of being socially connected, but in terms of geopolitics, we still see many differences also in how the digital transformation is implemented in the society. Then I spoke about robotics and how the journey of robotics is coming into us, because robotics was developed for manufacturing countries, for industrial production, and robots are in manufacturing plants. But in recent years, what we have seen is the development of service robotics, which is intended to support services and the offer of services in terms of medical robotics, social robotics, educational robotics. And now what is happening is that robotics is coming into our houses by producing some consumer products and also producing changes in the society in terms of supporting autonomous drive or different products that are revolutionizing business and revolutionizing our life.
逆に言うとなんで海外で加賀さんですよ海外でマジャメン委員会の求めた参加松井一郎さん方針
We do have a very serious problem of people left behind. The global agenda talks about eradicating poverty, eradicating hunger, having every child in primary and secondary education. We're off track to achieve these things. And that means not just a few people left behind, it means literally hundreds of millions of people missing out. Take education, more than 250 million children, adolescents and youth not in school as we speak. How can those children and youth of the future really contribute to a knowledge economy if denied the most basic access to education? So it is time for the international community to get a grip on the reality of what is happening. If we want a world that is well fed, where people don't live in extreme poverty, where education is a right, not a privilege, we have a lot to do. International development assistance is important, critical for the lowest income countries. For other countries to be prioritising their budget so that their growth is inclusive and sustainable is critical. There are solutions. What's needed is the political will to activate and implement those solutions.
There are more than 70 million people in the world that are forcibly displaced from their homes, either as refugees crossing borders or displaced in their own country because of war. violence, discrimination, persecution, bad governance. Why is that? The world has become a difficult place where to make peace. We have become unable to make peace and to build peace. So that's the first thing that we need to look at if we want to reduce this global refugee crisis. Meanwhile, what is very important to remember is that 85% of those 70 million people are not in the rich world. They are in poor countries or middle-income countries. So the effort, and the new effort, not just humanitarian, but medium, long-term effort, founded on sound development, both for refugees and for host communities, has to focus on those countries. We have now a global compact on refugees. We will have the first ever global refugee forum in December this year in Geneva. These are opportunity to rally broader coalitions of actors, not just states and the United Nations, but also the private sector, the business community, civil society, academia, to forge new ways to respond to the global refugee crisis and to finally address strategically its root causes.
The question that you're raising, will Syria find a long-lasting peace? Well, the Syrian people deserve a long-lasting peace. Think about it. They've been 8 years now in a horrible conflict which became from local, regional, and frankly international. So the answer is it must be yes. Now, how to do it is where the challenge is coming. And the only way to do it is actually to end the military conflict, because there is no solution. It's not just a word, it's the truth. There will never be just a military solution, and include everyone. New constitution, elections under the UN supervision. That would be a way to include them.
残念だよ。加害者。
Well, I'm delighted to be able tonight to address the members of the trilaterals and their guests, and I think my focus will be tonight on three things. One is multilateralism has been the bread and butter of many of us, certainly at the IMF. And we believe that there's been critical in order to address many of the potential disorders of the world. Multilateralism is under threat at the moment, and I think that we have to make every effort to rejuvenate it, adapt it, and make sure that it continues to help govern economic developments around the world. That's message number one. My second message will have to do with the much more longer-term consequences of short-term policies and mechanisms, and that is really the consequences of climate change. I believe that many of the issues that we're debating at the moment will mean absolutely nothing in 20 years' time if we have not acted now in order to make sure that the planet remains something that is hospitable for our children and grandchildren. And my third message, which will not surprise any of those who know me or my friends, will have to do with inequality, and in particular the inequality that women have to suffer and have had to suffer for a long time. While inequality as such is a major disruption, I believe that by addressing women's situation and the inequality that they face, it will help quite a way in reducing. So we'll try to do that tonight.
いやー、格や2020年にようやくやりましょう。終わりじゃん。もう別でした。遠藤月くんです。遠藤愛さん。一応 SME さん。
Rapid and disruptive change.
ねえ、どこだったんでしょうかね。ブラジル。
And what we're seeing is that nowhere is that disruption more evident than the trends associated with climate change. We're all familiar with the extreme events, the temperature rises, and the inexorable change.
なんか認定証もなってからこれからこう今でもそうでしょ、法人と。これ持参したんです。
How will that impact climate change, and can we enter
mitigate carbon that will take us to a safe future. This is already happening. Renewable energy today is cost competitive on the grid. In a few years, renewable energy has reached 33% of capacity of power generation. It's the fastest growing segment and costs are increasing, not decreasing rapidly. So what we're going to see is a rapid movement towards energy transition that's also going to be disruptive for the business models of today. It's going to imply new geostrategic relationships among countries as countries move away from resource-dependent fossil fuel-based systems into clean energy systems, and the resource is going to become technology, and technology innovation is going to decide the winners and losers in this race.
あえてこっそりこうしたいやつ。これ一旦いい感じ。ごめん。
The challenge of dealing with disinformation narrative is that it's not enough just to check the facts.
なんか、
Because by
架
definition,
空の英語
any
もう載って
disinformation
たね。
narrative doesn't have good facts. They make their facts up. They're actually lying. This is why it's disinformation. So the challenge with disinformation actors is that the thing they have in common is they're really good storytellers. They tell a story that people want to believe. A lot of the time they will appeal to anger, they'll appeal to fear, they'll appeal to hatred, and they will try and stop people thinking. They'll try and get people so enraged that they switch off their critical faculty. That means that for those of us who are trying to challenge these narratives on a daily basis, it's a much more complex challenge than just presenting the facts. You have to have the ability to tell the story.
アメリカの PMC 資本に説得して。
Which will actually get people to think. And fortunately,
なか
there
な
is
か
a
向こう
model of story which works. If you think of the detective story,
デイ
that's
ビ
a
ッド
story
さん
where
あ
you're
ったんや。
putting together evidence and you're
日
telling
本
people
枠動画で
this is
じゃ
what
あ
happened, this is why it happened. And
ダ
it
メっていう
appeals to a different sort of emotion.
ジェイコブさん、
of
ジェイコ
emotion.
ブ教
It
徒。
appeals to
あ、
curiosity.
ジェイの
It appeals to problem
ダ
solving.
メ。
And so
Iran,
a lot of the
Iran,
challenge of
damn
dealing
it.
with disinformation is presenting the story of how the disinformation was created, how was the trick done, and you can lead people on the
問題
story
に
and you
は
can
も
show
う
them
法人格
this
取り消
person
され
is
た。
telling you
あ
that here is a
荒川
video
銀
of
行
somebody
税制
attacking
や
a voter at a
こ
polling
こで
station
こ
yesterday.
こ
But actually, look, this video showed up on CNN 4 years ago in a different context. You can share that
こ
voyage
れ
of
IP
discovery
やる
with the person
い
you're
やいい
talking
ね
with.
あ PMC クリアしてね
They will
この件で
realize how
言っ
the
てな
trick was done,
あの
but it will also sensitize them that the next time around,
まあ
they'll
取
be
り越し
looking
言って
for
た
that
ね
same trick. If you teach people very simple
W
skills
日本
like
大会
searching for a photo online or searching for a video online, you can actually make them proof
こ
against
こ
that
で
kind of
何がいく
reused content and repackaged content, not just today, but every time this kind of thing comes up. And so really dealing with disinformation, you have to have the facts, but you have to teach the skills as well. You have to give people the ability to solve the problems for themselves, because then you'll be appealing to their curiosity, you'll be appealing to their problem-solving senses, and you'll be appealing to their sense of
ちょっ
pride
と
in actually expressing the
ユ
story in the first
ー
place.
ゴスラビア
Those are the kind of emotions which will
ユーゴスラビア
then
ですよ
counter the anger, the fear, and the hatred that disinformation actors try to target.
まさそれそれいくら
Cities are one of the greatest innovations of all times, and what's interesting right now is that urbanization is, alongside with digitalization, a very, very strong economic force and force for innovation. As more and more people move into cities and move into areas, and urban areas were important during the industrial era, but they are increasingly important in a knowledge-based economy. And what's interesting, especially for a person like me who comes from a small city like Stockholm, is that there seems to be room for cities outside the megacities as well. There are some really interesting drivers of innovation that are smaller or mid-sized cities, amongst which Stockholm is actually one, but there are a number of examples. And what is important if a city wants to become a
outlier or a hub for innovation is collaboration. If you look at urban innovation especially, you need to have a strong public-private partnership. The mayor needs to gather people from private sector, from academia and other stakeholders around the table and work together to solve problems. And I think we see that to a quite large extent right now, and I hope we'll see more of it going forward.
So we had, I have to say, a meeting with three North American, Asian Pacific and European members of the Trilateral Commission, which was very, very multidimensional, if I may. Multidimensional in the great tradition of the Trilateral Commission by the, I would say, experiences of the members, by the sensitivities of the members, by the fact that it was, of course, a non-partisan, multi-sensitivities meeting, also because the issues that we addressed were very, very multi-dimensional. With all respect, we addressed issues of a geostrategic nature, issues that were of economic nature, from the economic nature, issues that were related to environmental difficulties and challenges, and we addressed these particular challenges for our societies that populism, so-called populism, represents, which is also a largely multi-dimensional issue. So I think it was really a trilateral at its best, and also it was the occasion to confirm some dimensions and orientations of the trilateral and to make new experience, to reinforce in a number of domains our, I would say, franchise as the Trilateral Commission. First, let me mention that the Trilateral is called Trilateral because there is not only the new hemisphere, the US, Mexico, Canada, but also Europe and also Asia. And of course, the whole of Asia at a global level is more and more important. As regards new dimension for the Trilateral Commission,
最近アメリカみたいな私が最高経営責任者になって私が取締役代表取締役社長
democratic society, but we also reinforce and confirmed our values as regards multilateralism, international cooperation, in the best sense of the term. We also said that we would like to be more transparent than we were before at the level of the trilateral as a whole, with a new initiative that we took, in particular the idea of having the display of videos
すごいでしょ、組織改革したらこんなのにすごいね以上でした。